Hi, friend. I'm host Eric. Good morning. Got a pretty good amount of sleep last night, but you know, still feeling a little tired. I am so misunderstood. In what way, you might ask? Well, I was rather distressed last night when Teacup Noir came in and jumped to conclusions. I understand why, because the thumbnail of the video says archived videos has some serious issues, but it has a picture of EJR&D because that's what his channel has a picture of as the thumbnail. That's not DJR&D. Archived videos is not the same thing as DJR&D. Archived videos is somebody hating on him. But Teacup Noir thought I was hating on him. That's very bothersome to me. I was hating on his hater, actually. I'm not feeling especially lively today. I had a wonderful day yesterday, though. It was a very good day. A happy day. And probably we'll go to LA tomorrow. That's what I'm thinking. So, um, needless to say, I have to write a lot of dark poetry because I'm so misunderstood. Black is the feeling of despair. Black is the color of my soul. No one understands me except for Santa Claus. That's my poem. But, it's like this horrible person, this archive videos person. What a POS. It's it's quite kind of unbelievable what a POS this guy is. Because first of all, why does he hate EJR&D so much? It's like there's no good reason to hate that guy that much. I understand hating me. If you feel threatened by me or something, and you hate me, and you want to put up mirrors of my videos with titles trying to suggest that I'm a mess or whatever, go for it, motherfucker. It's not gonna work. But pick on people who are well equipped to defend themselves if you're gonna do that. Like me. Not like DJ R&D, who clearly is not well equipped to defend himself at the moment. Dear God, please don't let me be misunderstood. This morning, I've got some things that I have to do. One in particular. I have to go to the store. A number of things we need at this point. Yesterday, Rachel and I just got cozy. We settled in here, cleaned up a bit, got domestic, washed the sheets and stuff. Then I took a little bit of mushrooms and we just sort of pleasantly chatted the rest of the day. We each had an Adderall in us, and I had a little bit of mushrooms, and it was just a delightful day. Today I don't have any Adderall, but not a big deal. I'll probably get some tomorrow. And the other thing is, I have a plan. And my big plan is this. When I get my bottle of Adderall, this upcoming week, like maybe the 19th or something, I'll get it. I'm going to break all the pills in half. I'm going to take all my 30s and turn them into 15s by breaking them in half. I'm going to try to make myself default to just 1:15 in the morning, because I don't need a lot of Adderall to feel good, but I seem to need a little bit. I have a bad habit of abusing it so that I don't get the benefits from taking it as prescribed. And I genuinely suspect that if I were to not run out of Adderall and take 15 to 30 milligrams a day every day, that I'd probably be a happier person. I was thinking about this a lot yesterday because, like a few weeks ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, I had a stretch of time that I can only call depression. I don't know if it was quite to the level of depression, but I was feeling very meh and sleeping a lot, even though I didn't have good reason to be particularly tired. I suspect that that period of time qualifies as depression. And it distressed me because for some time now, really, I've been trying to figure out where my native joy and enthusiasm went. Like, my whole life, I always operated under the assumption that if only I didn't have to make money, and if I didn't have people telling me what to do, I'd be so happy because I'd just be able to play all the time as I want to. The only thing preventing me from being joyful is other people telling me what to do. But I tend to find that now that I'm maximally empowered to play, that I somewhat lost my knack for it. Like, it used to be that I'd do amphetamines, my Adderall or whatever, and then I'd make things. I'd make music, I'd make videos, I'd play, Yeah, I know. I agree, Hero Lamb. That's just totally normal. That was me for most of my life, too. I had had crazy work schedules for many years, working many, many hours a week. So, I mean, but part of the takeaway of it is when you work a lot, you really appreciate your free time. But when you don't have very much responsibility, the thing is, I don't really believe in boredom. I'm not the kind of guy who gets bored per se. Because it seems like I've got a storehouse of things I want to play saved up from years and years. So, and the thing is, I don't necessarily have to play in expensive ways, right? So, in fact, I generally never do play in expensive ways, or rarely do. I play by recording music, or by making a little clay sculpture or something out of the clay from the backyard. I play by making video or whatever. So, but the bottom line also is I'm growing up. I'm not as much of a little child as I used to be. That, I guess, somewhat means changing habits, I guess, just kind of naturally. Now, when I have energy, I feel like I've got lots of concrete things to deal with. It was probably 6 years ago now, maybe 7, that I was doing pretty well with my autonomy debate business. So I was like rolling for me, which at the time, which is not truly rolling at all. Yet I still, during that period of time, while working and running a business, managed to squeeze in a cross-country trip to visit all these people from the channel. I was much less empowered to do that sort of thing then than I am now. But it's not the sort of thing I would do now, really. I'm just not that youthful anymore. Plus, I've already done it, so why do it again? But what's better, really, is having this house with these extra rooms, and we can invite friends from the channel and real life to come stay here at our house with us. And I like that a lot. I really enjoyed having people here. It's best when, like, once Dave and Cameron left, it was just me and Rachel and Ruben and Acacia. It's super easy, super chill to have two people stay here with us. It's like this house is made for like a minimum of 6 people, you know? So it's very easy to stay here, have Ruben and Acacia stay here, and never feel like anybody's in my way or anything. Yeah, I've poked this. Now, what I need to do is grind a little bit more wheat. So, needless to say, I feel somewhat distressed about Teacup Noir last night, misinterpreting what was going on, and scolding me as would have been appropriate had I been doing what they thought I was doing, but I wasn't doing that. That makes me annoyed. It's like, I don't mind getting my chops busted when I do something wrong. I don't like getting my chops busted for doing something wrong that I'm not doing. But at the same time, like I said, I can totally understand why they interpreted it that way. It looks like, given that I have archived videos in quotes, that I'm saying archived videos is really DJ R&D, which is not what I'm saying at all in that video. Hi, Definitely Klaus. Thank you. I cut it myself in the bathroom using the barber clipper things that we have. COVID was not good for barbers. I haven't been to a barber since COVID. Once I had started cutting my own hair, I just no reason to ever go to a barber again. And unlike restaurants, which recovered after COVID because people like to go to restaurants, even though they can cook for themselves, they prefer going to restaurants. It's not necessarily the case that people prefer going to barbershops once they've gotten in the habit of cutting their own hair. Just found you again in it like. Good morning, Cone Man 3. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there, Conman 3. It does probably beat the hobo look. But I enjoy a lot of privilege. The kind of privilege that is such where I don't have to give a fuck what people think about what I look like. They can cast their prejudgments all they want. And they can be surprised when their prejudgments are proved false if they want. Like Rachel and I go into town. I'll be wearing like whatever sweats and thing. I have my full, massive, unkempt hair and beard, my few teeth remaining, just looking like a hobo. And then we'll go into Frederick's and have a very nice dinner. Rachel will order the lobster. And they can think what the fuck they want. I don't mind people judging me wrong because of my appearance. I find that kind of funny. But judging my narrative wrong, as what happened last night, that bugs the shit out of me. It's because that's it's like I I was not saying that or doing that. And then of course Teacup Noir stops by just to just to uh just to scold me and then leaves before I have a chance to explain myself. To be honest, Codeman 3, I'm not exactly sure what vocal fry is. I've heard the term before, but I don't really know what it is. Let's see if I could look it up. What is vocal fry? A way of speaking in which the voice is very low pitched and has a characteristic rough or creaking sound. Is that like Drew Barrymore's? Does Drew Barrymore have vocal fry? Yes, Drew Barrymore has vocal fry. I thought it's probably So there you go. It's the way Drew Barrymore talks. That's vocal fry. Well, I may indeed have lots of vocal fry. certainly plausible. But if I do, I don't notice it in myself. Well, that's true that winning a debate, for me to win a debate against somebody else, tells us very little about which side is correct. For me to win a debate against myself tells us everything. It depends on your metric for judging. My point is, when you establish, when you understand how discursive work is done, in other words, when you have all the moving parts pinned down like you should, then the native rhetorical slope of things becomes obvious. So, for example, the reason why gay marriage wins the argument, and that this is true, it's not because I'm on either side of it, it wins the argument. The reason is because marriage is not just an institution that people decide to enter into with each other. It's a legal status that is validated and afforded by the government and that comes with certain kinds of benefits. So, equal protection under the law requires the government to afford equal opportunity to everybody to attain that status. If you don't let gay people get married, then they don't enjoy equal protection under the law. So, regardless of what you think about marriage and homosexuality, it's a straightforward legal issue, right? If you want to argue against gay marriage, you have to argue against equal protection under the law. That's never going to be the winning argument. Ergo, gay marriage wins the argument. So that's not something that's open for debate. What wins the argument? Because until and unless somebody rebuts the equal protection under the law argument and their rebuttal stands, then my affirmation, which in this case is that gay marriage wins the argument, stands. It's always the case that when we conclude a discursive engagement on an issue, that we come to a conditional conclusion that this is the right thing to do as it stands, because there hasn't been presented an adequate answer to my point. Well, L. Hiltbrand. I don't know. There's at least as good a chance that you're neither as that you are either one of those. Do I agree that maternity pay for women is discriminatory against men? Well, by and large, I think any company that gives maternity leave gives paternity leave as well. So, um, I didn't teach either of those things, Winston's mom. Winston's mom asked me, what's more fun to teach your students how to steel man or how to straw man? It doesn't work like that. You got a specific topic or resolution or plan text. You're dealing with all the possible arguments. Let's say you're talking about your AF case. You're dealing with all the possible rebuttals that somebody might present given the possible frames under which they might present them. Um, those kind of I did teach some techniques, but like a technique would be this: always in the last speech, don't just indicate what they didn't do, failed to do, or did poorly. Also indicate what they could have done but didn't. It's the last speech of yours, so they can't make those points now. They can only rebut your claim that you didn't make them, right? So what that looks like is uh, um, my opponent failed to establish that his second contention validates under his framework. He could have said meow 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 meow. That would have validated under his framework. He could have said meow 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 meow. That would have validated under his framework. Instead, he said meow meow meow, which clearly doesn't validate under his framework, as per my arguments in the previous speech, which I cross apply here and draw your attention to. You will note they went unrebutted on the flow. So those arguments stand, and Judge, that is round decisive. You should vote for me. Now, steel manning refers to the idea of saying my opponent's wrong, but he didn't necessarily do a great job of presenting his own case. So here's a better job of his own case. Here's a better version of his own case. I'll strengthen it for him. And I'll show you how, even in its strongest format, it fails. No, Death Boy Klaus, that didn't really happen. Maybe like the first tournament they attended or something like that. But the people who struggle in practice struggle in the tournament. The people who do well in practice do well in the tournament, because it's such a sophisticated skill set that success has everything to do with where you are in the skills development and almost nothing to do with things like whether you're scared or stuff like that. I mean, there are occasional exceptions. I had this one team, Alex and Jax, lose in quarterfinals at nationals, even though they were way better than the other team, usually, and they had their worst round I've ever seen them debate. This day, I'm convinced it's because they didn't eat any dinner and they were fucking starving to death. I don't know. It was just like I couldn't believe what I was watching. I watched that round. I just watched them just collapse in front of my eyes and just fall apart like I'd never seen them do before. Completely uncharacteristically. They were the one seed going into octafinals. They were going up against the 16 seed. They had won every round in prelims. Totally dominated. It was one of the worst moments of my debate coaching career. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I I I just like, oh, what are you doing? I mean, I don't feel about my arguments. I don't have to. There's no like whether it's flawed or not, right? Like I said, it's a matter of what's the best argument given all the possible arguments that are linked by a frame. In in this instance, there may be more possible arguments I haven't considered. Okay, in which case I could still be wrong. So, and that's always going to be the case that there's more arguments that potentially that I haven't considered. This happened the other night when we were talking about the moon landing, and Acacia pointed out that the difference between the Chinese moon rocks and the purported moon rocks the U.S. brought back could be explained by the fact that they were gathered in different parts of the moon. Not something I considered, right? But note that my conclusions about the thing were conditional to begin with, right? It's not like I've been going around preaching that the moon landing is fake. I just find this one fact about moon rocks to be very suspicious, right? So, did that possibility, which I hadn't considered, make me feel a little bit less suspicious about that fact? Yes, but I'm not interested in how I feel about things. When you work as a debate coach, your job is to prepare the best possible. Let's talk about resolutional debate instead of planned debate, okay? Your job is to prepare the best possible case for the affirmation of that resolution and the best possible case for the negation of that resolution. And you probably have different students arguing different cases ultimately. But you've therefore got to prepare for all the possible rebuttals to all of their different affirmations. And you've got to prepare for how their negations might run into problems. But negation is a little bit different because negation is much more responsive to the aff, right? You do build somewhat of a neg case as well, but the primary, foremost job of the negation is to negate the aff, not to be responsive. So you prepare everybody on the debate team for neg. Your preparation for them on neg is much more. Their cases on neg are much more similar to each other because they're smaller and they're expected to do more work out of their box, which is actually their laptop. But in other words, by pulling cards that are specifically responsive to what the app's saying. That's much more of the time is spent on neg doing that. So your kids' neg cases are more similar to each other than their aff cases are. They like to run their own affs or variations of the stock aff or whatever. Because as the coach, I generate multiple affs for a given topic. I start with we call it the stock app or default app, which is just basically whatever I throw together with the cards that successfully affirms it, but it isn't very good. It won't win. You know, it's just something to be a placeholder in scrimmages essentially. Then, as I'm watching the scrimmages and shit, I'm making the good app. And then the kids are concurrently making their own apps. Some of them stick with their apps. Some of them go with the good app that I make. It gets altered as we continue. There becomes increasing variations of it, like different skins on it, essentially. Like framework heavy rights app versus um, framework muddling util app. Oh yeah, you don't just have notes on paper. You've got hundreds of evidence cards that are cut and highlighted the quoted parts and tagged with um, with the contention level tag. So it would say something like drone strikes in the Middle East cause blowback would be the tag, and um, there'd be some card in which some national security pundit or Pentagon person or whatever says uh, cites some sort of like like two charts of data that show uh, an apparent responsive rise in violence following drone strikes. So then you read that, and you'd read that say as a rebuttal probably to an argument they made saying drone strikes are necessary to stop to stop extremism, something like that. And in that instance, you'd be saying basically, like, let's say the topic was drone strikes in the Middle East. As the neg, you'd want to have your framework be rights and legitimacy, right? So say this isn't a legitimate. This comprises murder. It's illegitimate. These are not enemy soldiers. This war on terror fiction has created this legal gray area of people who are deemed combatants but aren't soldiers of any country, and that regardless of impacts, the U.S. shouldn't have murder as its foreign policy. If I were then reading that blowback card, I'd be saying, even if you want to vote under my opponent's framework, judge, and measure this purely on impacts, it has negative impacts measured in the same units as he's trying to attribute positive impacts. And then he'd have to have a response to that piece of evidence. If he were going to win the chain, he didn't have a response that did something other than just contradict the evidence of the person who read it on neg about blowback. His card would have to say in response something like, you have to be directly responsive to the warrant, something like that. This study being cited in that card has methodological flaws, and we should discount it entirely. If there's some card that says that, that's a fine way to rebut it. But if you're just reading a different card that says, and it sort of restates what your initial card said by somebody else who just generally is saying this is a good way to stop extremism, but it doesn't counter the warrant, is not directly responsive to the neg's rebuttal, then the neg needs to indicate that, and the rebuttal should carry over on the flow because it's not actually been responded to. So that's the thing. When we remember that debate is an engagement between two parties regarding whether or not we should affirm something, and that if there's an honest discursive exchange, all parties are aware of whether a given point has been answered adequately, whether it's standing or rebutted, which framework has won the argument as to why it should be used, or if not, if framework's a wash, how each debater, each side validates or fails to under their own framework. Those things should all be very clear to everybody because there's a finite number of events that occur during this discursive exchange, each of which is mapped on the flow. So just as you can map the progression of a chess game with like rook 4 to bishop 2 or whatever, like I don't know exactly how that works, but just as you can map the sequence of moves in a chess game, so too can you map the sequence of moves in a debate round. And so at the end of an honest debate about things, one side has clearly established that they deserve to be, we deserve to act as though they are correct. Because while they may not be correct, the answers to their points have not yet been made. Well, I'm a little wary of stand-up comedy because if it's bad, it's horrible. But I also like it when it's good. Right. But the point is, remember that when we're debating something, someone's always advocating something. And so the real question is, should we listen to you about this? That's the question that debate answers. Whether it's a casual debate between people about a topic here, I'm talking with famous people, or a formal debate, the question that debate answers for people who can parse and who attend to things that way is, should we listen to you about this? So it's an incredibly powerful force for good when you're talking about dialectic. That's to say, people reviewing the possible argument chains for, and having them compete against each other while being personally dispassionate about it. That's a powerful force of good. Like, if we determine the country's policy by having dispassionate people like me evaluate what the best course of action is under the appropriate framework contextually, we'd obviously be a lot better off than having the politics of partisanship rule the day. I mean, it wasn't really any different, Winston's mom, except we had to stay away from certain kinds of topics because China's an authoritarian nightmare. The biggest difference was it's like everything in China is against you getting things done. It's like, okay, here's your ideas for how to put together this debate tournament, which you've never put together one before. You've hired me to come in and do it because I know what I'm doing. But now you're preventing me from making decisions that need to be made to have this thing run properly because you want me to accommodate your various ideas that you just pulled out of your ass when you don't know anything. I had much more I have much more memories about dealing with administration types in China and the nightmare that was than dealing with the students. Oh, you have to talk to Dr. Miao in Hong Kong. Okay, well, get him on the phone. Oh, he's very busy. You'll have to wait till he comes back. Okay, I'm putting together this fucking debate tournament. This thing tells me you want us to do a format that they debate half in Chinese and half in English, but you've not accounted for the fact that you don't have enough judges who speak both languages. You can't possibly run this fucking event. It's a terrible idea, right? Because you have to have people who are fluent in both languages to evaluate that round, and you don't have enough judges for that purpose. What? Oh, well, we have to wait till Dr. Meow gets back. Are you not hearing me? How are you going to hold debate rounds where you don't have any judge? Yeah, this is an example of the shit I dealt with in China. I was a professional debate coach, competition debate coach. I worked for a private K through 12 school for some stretch of years as their debate coach. And then but I also worked at this private debate school, which I eventually left the regular school and worked full time as the director of that debate school. And it was quite successful. In fact, we opened branches in Shanghai. We opened a branch in Shanghai. We went to Taiwan and like did classes there, did a run of classes in Taiwan, but it was just like a I don't know, Christmas break 2 week long package, you know. But we didn't end up opening a branch there. That's not normal, people. And I never encountered anything like that in the United States, where I had a school administrator trying to tell me how to do my job when he doesn't know anything about it. Or having layers of people between me and that person preventing me from doing my job pending formal approval from this guy, which I can't get right now. I've never encountered that in the United States. People let you do your own job, right? How often have I been to silly social gatherings? Plenty of times. Lots of ENTPs go into politics. I can imagine with their intellect, they would privately think that politics is mostly nonsense. I don't think that public policy is nonsense at all. I'm a big believer in America and us having the right public policy. You know, I believe wholeheartedly in our citizen democracy. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not amoral, okay? I'm an ENTP and I'm a moral absolutist and not a relativist at all. So, it can go that way, right? If you treat, let's say you're another ENTP who's also done competition debate, because I debated when I was in high school and then I coached debate, right? Who's debated and not coached debate. Well, it's very easy to see how, as they move through the world, they have all these advantages, attentional stack wise, but also experience with debate. And they're running into a bunch of regular people in the world and thinking that the truth doesn't matter because they can, right? That it can play out that way, but it doesn't play out that way when they run across me because I have the advantage of being committed to the actual truth. And the actual truth has the advantage of having the superior rhetorical slope from your perspective. That is to say, it's easier to win with the truth. Nobody tries to do other people's jobs in America. We don't even want to do our homework. That's the weird thing, that boy Klaus. Yes, I came in and they had these preconceived ideas about what they wanted to do that weren't going to work. But what I encountered, even more than them trying to do my job, is them trying to stop me from doing my job. Everything is supposed to wait until it's got infinite levels of approval of people above you. It's just this whole kind of nodding and be like, oh, okay, well, but so debate in Chinese and English. I just told you this is not going to work. You've not responded to what I said. You just nodded and smiled and ignored me. So, obviously, a frustrating kind of situation to work in. Not to mention the fact that while I was doing that tournament there in Wuxi Dong, I had to stay there in the dorms for I don't know, the better part of a week. I had an apartment in Shanghai, but Wuxidong, I guess I commuted back and forth for a few days and I spent like 2 nights there. But it's like, I didn't want to stay in the fucking dorms. Fortunately, they put me in a room that had a balcony, so I could go out there and smoke, even though I wasn't supposed to. And there was the one guy who fucking saved my ass. I forget what his name was. He was this white guy from Hong Kong who spoke perfect Chinese and perfect English. And he worked for the guy I was supposed to get approval from all the time. He was a fucking lifesaver. It's like finally a voice of sanity around here who can actually talk to these people and get them to listen to me a little bit. That guy saved my ass. I do not remember what his name was, but thank you, guy from Hong Kong who saved my ass. I have to go pee now. Would you like to come with me? Okay, you can come. I wouldn't want you to feel excluded. Don't go excluding live stream chats. Oh, sweet, wonderful urine. Liquid of relief. Ah, well, that feels better. I'm not feeling like super lively or anything today, but also I'm not feeling super tired. I need to go to the store. I'll probably do that before Rachel gets up. There's a number of things I need to get at the store. I need more coffee creamer, cat food, drinks, maybe some bratwursts would be good to get, cheese, salami, paper towels. I'm sure there are other things still I'm not even thinking of that I'll see at the store, but woodland cutlets, maybe more milk. I think it's good to have milk and cereal. Well, obviously, the U.S. spends a lot of money on the military. And, well, I personally think Noam Chomsky is more or less an idiot, frankly, coming in. I saw this. There's one thing I saw. He made like this movie sometime back, and it was so incredibly weak. It was like just trying to show how corporations impact media, trying to create the case that essentially the media that we encounter is mostly a corporate attempt to further corporate agendas. But he completely failed to make the case and just thought that putting together things that looked suspicious comprised proof of some sort. It was horribly, horribly. It was an intellectual clusterfuck of disaster, is what it was. That man lost all respect from me at that point. Because if you're gonna try to make a case for something, know what you're doing. Shameful. Yeah, the man's a disgrace. An absolute fucking disgrace. Pretending like that bit of bullshit mongering actually should be convincing to anybody. Oh my God, that is simply disgraceful. He can attain some sort of respect from people as an intellectual is shocking, appalling, and wrong at every level. He's an ENFP. He's not cut out to do my job. He wouldn't last 5 seconds with me questioning him about anything. I reduced him to tears within 10 minutes. That's the problem with books, right? There's nobody's engaging the author directly. They're just sitting there in the privacy of their room, enjoying the stink of their own farts and subjecting it to no scrutiny. And then, I might publish this book, and people read it and go, oh, Yeah, well, it's like, you're never going to be right that way. You have to subject your ideation to the fires of scrutiny. Otherwise, your sword comes out flaccid and shitty. Noam Chomsky wants to impress me. He should subject himself to the amount of scrutiny I subject myself to. See how well his bullshit stands up. It won't stand up at all. I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit here and say his name should be Noam Chomsky. But, you know, getting back to my formal thesis today, I am so misunderstood. It's true. People think that because I shit in the mouth of their favorite author, that I'm a dick. And they're right about that. I am a bit of a dick. But, you know, I'm legitimately angered by wrongness that's contextually just abhorrent, you know? It's fine to be wrong about your own personal shit. Don't be wrong about public policy. Don't be wrong about society. Don't write books trying to boogeyman corporations and ignore all reality and facts, you know, and then somehow attain the title of respected intellectual. Like, stay in your fucking lane. Go make art about your feelings. It's like so much narrative out there validates the acceptability of using language wrong. Or more correctly, in being imprecise as a means of communicating about things that require precision. But I am the fiery sword of God when it comes to that. God does not appreciate people failing to be contextually nuanced, to recognize their own deficits and not stick their hands and face where it does not belong. I believe that to be the case. God does not want your wrongness ruining America. Sure, you call me a religious fanatic, but that really would not be correct. I've got to cut back this weather stripping a little bit. I hate the fact that that door doesn't close. I have to like push it now. They replace the weather stripping. I gotta fix that shit. Because I built this city on rock and roll, and that's never gonna change. No matter how much jazz you play. I think corporations aren't a monolithic boogeyman, right? When I ran Autonomy Debate School, it was a corporation. Was I evil, therefore? No. When I was director of Kudos College of Youth Leadership, it was a corporation. Lots of individuals operate for tax reasons as corporations. A city is an incorporation. A municipality is. You don't even know what incorporation means. So why should I have any faith in your position on corporations? Oh, big corporations. How big? So if my corporation had become successful enough, would I have become evil? You know, without Google and YouTube and stuff, Coneman 3, you wouldn't be able to express your wrongness now to me directly, real time, live. You're presumably using a phone or a computer, which you purchased from a large corporation. Your hypocrisy is appalling. If it weren't for capitalism and the success of corporate business enterprises, you wouldn't have the ability to be so wrong. If it weren't for the corporation that published the Noam Chomsky books that you read, you wouldn't have the ability to be so wrong. Right? It's your hypocrisy that's appalling. I'm being illogical. I'm pointing out that everything that's empowered you to have the position you have traces back to corporations doing the good work of providing utility for human beings. You take advantage of it all the time. The thing you're critiquing is not a monolith. It is not a boogeyman. It is a way of organizing things so that groups can have agency. And remember, without corporations, individuals cannot be protected from liability should their businesses fail. Do you want everybody whose business fails to lose their home as well? Is that what you want? Because that's what you're arguing for. You're claiming I'm being illogical. Everything I'm saying makes perfect fucking sense. Oh, so those corporations are okay, Coneman 3? So which corporations are bad exactly? Because you don't get much bigger than Google. If it's not size, what is it? I'm not saying there aren't specific corporate entities that are bad actors, right? There are also specific individuals who are bad actors, specific individuals in government who are bad actors, specific agencies and bureaus within government that are bad actors. None of those things is a monolithic boogeyman that we can blame for everything and believe we're doing any kind of intellectual work. You need to be more responsible than that. No, you are talking about corporations as one entity. I'm not. I'm pointing out that an incorporation means something. Big Pharma does not do more harm than good. My wife has bipolar mania. Without her olanzapine, Klonopin, and Prozac, she goes completely batshit fucking crazy. Like I have to take her to the hospital and they have to sedate her. According to you, we should hate Big Pharma. But in my experience, it saves my wife's life. Day in and day out. No, I'm not putting up a straw man. Your statement that I responded to, Coneman 3, was that Noam Chomsky was the greatest intellectual alive today. You additionally said that USA is a goat fuck because of banks and big corporations. Am I straw manning you? Your statement was unequivocal and unqualified. I'm not straw manning you. I'm exactly responding to what you said. Okay, well, you say you obviously didn't mean all corporations, but you said big corporations the enemy. So I pointed out that your capacity to do so is predicated on big corporation like Google, right? So you didn't say all, you said big. I rebutted that. I pointed out your hypocrisy. And now you're accusing me of straw manning you when that's exactly what you said? You can't expect me to respond to you any more effectively than to respond to exactly what you said. Think. Okay. I guess I should go to the store. I find this exchange annoying. Because if you don't want me to respond to your nonsense, don't say such nonsense. Use words well. You're never going to understand society, America, or whatever else by being sloppy in your language usage. You're doing none of us a service when you pretend to have informed opinions about public policy matters, and really, you're just butt licking metaphors. All right. I'm outie like a Scandinavian car. See y'all later. Have a great day.